Jeez, doesn't that sound good? Hello and welcome to the NRLW Weekly Podcast. All thanks to Harvey Norman. My name is Marlee Silva. I'm essentially a professional NRLW fan at this point, and I am, as always, joined by the one, the only Origin Series winning Blues women's assistant coach, Ruan Sims. She's got a smile on her face because we are one sleep away from NRLW for 2025 being here. I cannot wait. I've been counting down the seconds, and even more than that, even more than the first ball that is kicked, I have been counting down to being back in studio with you, Ru, and it makes me so happy. How are you?
Me too, Marlee. Yeah, fantastic. And welcome to everyone at home listening for 2025, the very first NRLW Weekly for the year. I am pumped. I'm so excited. Obviously, you know, we had Origin earlier in the year and that kind of whet the appetite, but I think it also got everyone just hungry for NRLW to start. And boy, don't we have some stuff to get through today.
Oh, we certainly do. And I mean, have you had the same experience since Origin? Everyone I've come across has been like, oh gosh, how long is it until NRLW starts? How good was Origin? Like, it was just, like you said, that perfect first taste for everyone that's pumping them all up for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's really keen just to get into the year. Obviously, there's a lot of changes this year. There's a lot of player movements, which we're going to get into. But I think that just builds. It creates a lot more excitement. And also, I think it creates a lot of really good conversation on how the women's game should look come 2028. Well, 2028 when the new CBA gets signed. So, yeah, I think that is going to be really, really cool to see how quickly it grows in such a short period of time.
Yeah, throughout this whole season, we'll be having lots of conversations like that. You know, maybe you're listening to this for the very first time. This is the place to come to hear some of the expertise of Ru about breaking down the key moments that we see in the games, the player movements, the rulings, and again, whilst this season starts, those conversations about how it should look or how it should change always pop up. So we break all of that down. So right now, actually, make sure you're hitting subscribe wherever you're listening, right as you're listening to this, because you want to be the first to hear it. Let's get stuck into some of these headlines. So as we were just talking about, it's the new look NRLW expansion. 2 new teams. Well, one not technically a new team, but back into the NRLW. This is what I am so excited about this season. We have 12 teams for the very first time, and the 2 new ones in there are the Bulldogs and the Warriors.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm really, really chuffed to see the Warriors back in the fold. Obviously, they were part of NRLW in 2018 when it first kicked off, and it's great to see them back in because that is just – the Pacific is such a huge part of rugby league, and it is important that we include our Māori and our Kiwi and Pacifica teams and players in this competition because they're just a wealth of talent, you know, and it adds this beautiful cultural element that we love to see every single time these players take the field. So it's great to see the Warriors back in there. At the helm, Ronnie Griffiths, who's had a lot of success at the Knights, and he's gone over there and he's put together what I think is a pretty impressive looking squad to take on 2025 season, and I think they'll be in with a decent shot. And you know, one player for me that really stands out in this signing spree that he went on, Michaela Brake at Nay Blyde.
Yes.
So she's obviously a gold medalist with the Kiwi Sevens, the New Zealand Sevens women's side, and I can't wait to see her. She's playing on the wing, and we saw the impact that Stacey Walker had for the Broncos when she came across, and I think Michaela will have a very similar impact for the Warriors. So I am so keen for that game to see how they turn out. I think it's going to be really cool, and obviously Arpy Nichols is the captain.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see her get that C next to her name. She's been a good custodian of the number 1 jersey for the Raiders for a long time, and for the Kiwis, she's played a lot of footy, so it's good to see her there. And then we come back over the ditch to Sydney, the Bulldogs. And we're seeing at the moment the Bulldogs men's team are having such incredible success on the field, and a lot of that is built around grit and hard work. And I envisage that the women's side will be exactly the same. You know, they went on a pretty good purchasing spree heading into it. They brought back, and I say brought back because some of these girls had played in the Harvey Norman's competition for the Bulldogs, and they've come back from other NRLW clubs. Taylor Preston is there, Holly Wheeler, a couple of big signings for them. And I think that is really cool to see them get there. And I can't wait to see the style that they play when it comes out. Now, for me, the other ones that are really impressive for me is their forward pack.
Yeah.
Like they have a really impressive forward pack, and I watched their trial game on the weekend, and they look fit. They look really, really fit. So I'm keen to see how they turn out in 2025. They've obviously signed a couple of really big young guns from the Dragons, like Alexis Toinier, for me, was one of the standout players for the Dragons. Yeah, and Te Akaranga Katoa was another one who was a standout. So to see them pair up with your Holly Wheelers and your Tegan Dimmicks, who have gone across from the Sharks, is pretty cool. You know, I can't wait to see how they go. That's who I was after. That's, to me, it's going to be a really, really good year. And I can't pick what's going to happen.
Oh, well, I'm going to, at the end of this episode, ask you for predictions, of course.
Mind you, my crystal ball was pretty good last year.
Yeah, I mean, you do kind of know what you're talking about, don't you?
Sometimes.
I have to say that from, like the lineup of players for the Dogs and the Warriors is amazing, as you said. I ran into Ronnie Griffiths in Auckland when I was there for a Warriors men's game, and he was just saying how much he's loving being there, which is such a great thing to know for how he's building that environment and the like. But I have to say, what excites me the most is that those two female teams are coming into clubs that have such passionate fan bases. That, the whole Up the Wires movement, the way that the Doggies just, set everything on fire as soon as the boys win, whatever, they're very passionate, they're very committed. And it's my belief then they're going to show up for the girls. And I think that's probably, the most important thing, regardless. I mean, of course, competitive, these teams are going to want to go out there and win. And I think they're both going to be a red hot chance of doing something really impressive. But more importantly, how these fans show up and wrap themselves around the girls is what, success looks like in the NRLW as it stands.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when they are successful on the field as well, it draws in even more supporters. But I agree. I think that their initial fan base are going to be really, really supportive of them. I think the Warriors probably will have the greatest fan base in the NRLW.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Just because they love their rugby league and like the Up the Wires movement is so huge. And I just think, it's going to be incredible. So I can't wait to see how all of the fans for each club turn out throughout the year, and especially when we get to Magic Round at Newcastle, the first ever women's Magic Round. That's going to be a great weekend of football, and I can't wait to see everyone turn up and vote. Vote with their feet, turn up to the game, and if they can't get to the game, luckily Channel 9, we're covering absolutely every game, free to air. So get amongst it.
Absolutely. We're about to talk about a few of the big player transfers and movements that happened in this offseason. But before we do, we were just talking about the Wars there, and before we move on, there was one signing that there was sort of whispers about, and there were, I mean, my ears certainly pricked up when I heard that a certain Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe might have come across. Now, you have some thoughts and feelings about this, and potentially, how rugby can kind of help build up NRLW moving forward.
I just feel like, I think she was looking at, it was almost a done deal with Newcastle, actually, for Portia Woodman, is my understanding. It was actually with Newcastle. So, and then that got knocked on the head because Rugby World Cup is at the end of the year. And obviously the Levi sisters for Australia, who also would love to see in NRLW because of World Cup. Now, after World Cup, I think it's free reign.
Yeah.
And I reckon there is going to be an absolute stampede to try and get those three players signings. And I think they would absolutely kill it in the NRLW. And like I said, we've had incredible players from Rugby Sevens come across and make really good impacts, and then they've gone back to their sports and they continue their career. So they don't have to pick rugby league forever and ever, amen. They can come over, have a go at it, see if they enjoy it, and then the ones who really enjoy it tend to stay. I mean, we saw Tyler King has come back.
Correct.
She went back, came back, and so I mean, I would love to see all three of them play. It's a shame they couldn't do it this year, but I understand why it couldn't happen this year. But like I said, from next year onwards, I'm pretty keen to see if they're if they're going to come across.
And I would say, because I think naturally people might go, well, why would we want rugby players when we've got rugby league talent coming through? And that's fair enough. But I think that these women who've been in full-time professional environments for a very long time.
They add another layer.
Yes.
They add another layer to the game. And I do understand it is important that we continue to grow junior talent and bring them through the ranks. But it's also, you're at that point where you don't want to just throw them into the fire and burn them.
Correct.
And then they can't come back from it, or it takes them a few years to actually get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, you're bringing players across who are incredibly talented players. They lift the entire competition with them.
Yeah.
And you speak to players who have trained and played alongside these girls who have been Olympians and full-time athletes. They just pick up so much about their professionalism, about how to go about their work, because I believe come 2028, this will be a full-time job for the girls. So this is now a professional pathway that's going to be happening in the next couple of years. And I'm not saying it's going to be full-time job as in they're playing the same amount of games as the boys. I'm not saying there's going to be 17 women's teams in 2028. No. That will not happen. However, I believe it will be a full-time profession for these girls.
Absolutely.
And so the game will continue to grow in a way that is sustainable, but it has to go full-time if we want to take it to the next level. And these players know what it takes to get to the next level. So I believe they add significant value coming across, and it's really great for those junior girls coming through to train and play alongside and against these kinds of players. It lifts the standard.
100%.
And just because you're bringing somebody else in who is good doesn't mean it's subtracting from what's already there. I believe it just adds value, and it means that we get better as a sport, which at the end of the day, we want to be the premier women's sport.
Yeah.
And this is how we do it. We get all the talented players we possibly can. We get them together, and we just work together, work with each other, and we drive forward.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I also have to say that names like that bring more eyes.
Oh, absolutely.
It
brings more media attention to the game.
Correct. And the more big headlines there can be about those kinds of movements, the better it is. I think you can't deny the fact that the most recognisable and most followed female athlete in the world right now is Ilona Maher.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry. I'm going to try. I'd love to get her across.
But you know what I mean? There's so much value in that. And they're
actually,
amazing.
you're better at sliding into DMs than me.
I mean, that makes you sound like a creep.
But in a very professional NRL, professional fan way. Slide into DMs. But could you imagine? I don't know if she would or not, but I'd
I think we need a big packet to be able to get her. But hey, we crowdfund. We can crowdfund. We can make it happen. But it's also, it's exciting. It's such exciting times. Speaking about big names, there are, of course, quite a few shifts. I think some that surprised people, particularly because there was a couple of players who were in long-term contracts who got out because of compassionate reasons and the like. And one of those was Tamika Upton. She's gone back. She's gone back home. Yeah. She's gone to the Broncos.
Back to the Bronx and back to fullback.
Yeah.
So Hayley Maddock will push to the wing. But I think that's a great pickup for the Broncos. I think it's really, really good for them. And she's such a class player. Yeah. So I think it's a move that suits her. And I think the Broncos are much stronger for having her as part of their system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
as we already mentioned, Appy Nichols has gone to the Warriors and she'll be a great leader there for sure.
Yeah, very, very solid out the back.
I mean, the Knights did lose a few big names because Hannah Southwell has also moved on. She's down to the Dragons now, moving away from her sister, starting afresh. I mean, Hannah has been a part of NRLW for such a long time, and I remember when she had a great impact at the Roosters and the like, so that'll be so good for that side.
Yeah, and she's also been at the Dragons before too. So she's not a stranger to their club or their system. So for her to go back, I think it's good for I think it's really good for the Dragons because they did lose a lot of young talent.
Yeah.
And to have her go down there, I think she brings it that, experience and that stabilising influence. And I think, she'll be really good. And she was part of our 30 squad for Origin this year. And it's one of the best pre-season and Origin campaigns I've seen her play in and train in. So I really do think she's going to take that great work that she did at the start of the year into the Dragons, and she'll hit the ground running down there for them.
Yeah, and one of the players that the Dragons lost was Tyler King. I mean, she's only had a couple of tastes in NRLW so far. We already talked about her coming from Sevens, and she's now at the Sharks.
Yeah, she is. And obviously not named to play this week. She's just got a bit of a calf strain. So they're just monitoring her and making sure that she's, good to go. But she's been another one who's been a really great influence on the playing group, and just chatting to her around the traps. So she's really enjoying the challenge of something new, new environment, new systems. And you can just tell that she just loves footy.
Yeah.
She's just a footy head. So that's really, really cool.
She was saying to me it felt so weird in the first training session passing the ball to Emma Veron because they versed
Played
each other
against
so
each
much
other.
in sevens.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
it's great.
they had their the Sharks had their fan day launch that I hosted on the weekend. And it was funny because I was just chatting to the girls and I was chatting to Tyler with the microphone. I said, "Oh, so Tyler, have you brought your medals into training yet? And do you and Emma compare your medals or anything?" And Emma was just standing next to going, "You're such a goose." Just the shaking of the head. But hey, how's that? Two Olympians.
Yeah, pretty
It's
special.
very cool.
And the final name that I wanted to talk about in terms of movements, Bo Vetti Welch, up to the Knights. I think a really important, experienced leader to kind of almost step into the hole that your Hannahs and your Tamikas leave when they left that side.
Yeah. And I think it's good for Bo as well to have a bit of a change of environment. And we were up there obviously with Origin throughout the year and just having a chat to her. She's loving it.
Yeah.
She's absolutely loving the environment up there and she's learning a lot. And I think she brings a lot to that side as well. And I'm really hoping that she can recapture some of the great form that we saw of her prior to her knee injury.
Yeah.
That'll be really good for her and I think it'll be great for the Knights.
Yeah.
And obviously the Knights, with all of those movements, there's a new captain.
Yeah.
Yasmin Clydesdale is the new captain up there. So a lot of changes for the Novocastrians. However, I think it's all very positive for them.
Out of those couple of names we just went through, who do you think will have the biggest impact on their side this year?
Of those names, I think it's really hard to go past Tamika.
Yeah.
Having that genuine impact because the way her game is developed, she's becoming another ball playing style fullback as well. And I think that adds another string to the bow. Obviously, you've got Gail Broughton on one side and Ali Brigginshaw on the other, but then you've got a third threat with Tamika Upton. So I think that is really, to me, that makes a really damaging spine, really damaging spine. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. I think she'll have a huge impact for the Bronx.
Oh, that's exciting, isn't it? Oh, my gosh. You're listening to the NRLW Weekly Podcast with Marlee Silva and Ruan Sims. Thanks to Harvey Norman. The wait is over. Ninja Slushy, the professional frozen drinks maker that every home needs, is now available at Harvey Norman. Best prices guaranteed. We already have listener questions because the people, they've been waiting, they've been burning to ask you all of these things. So they're fully prepared for when NRLW kicks off. The first one comes from Eliza. And Eliza says, does the expansion dilute the talent or does it push the standard higher across the board as more players get professional opportunities?
That's a good question.
Really good question.
That's a really good question to kick off. And I understand that people always have a concern that when we add new teams that it dilutes talent. I do understand that. However, the NRLW, the way that it has gone, which sometimes to my consternation, it's gone pretty not slow, but it has been very measured in its approach, which I also do understand, but I'm very much like, go push.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have both sides of that coin. You have to have a side pushing and have to have a side going, well, just hang on a second, let's have a look at this.
Yeah.
Because then you find a really great balance of when to take the risk and when to hold.
Yeah.
And I think they did that quite well.
Yeah.
Obviously, from the start, I thought it should have been 6 teams from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we should have stayed at 4 for as long as we did. However, it's done and we've progressed at a rate that is sustainable.
Yes.
So adding extra teams, I don't think it's going to dilute the talent as much as people are concerned it will.
Yeah.
Because what it then does, when you add new teams, you force clubs to become more innovative in their approach. And that means looking at other sports.
Yes.
That means going abroad. So looking, obviously, we've got another player coming over from the Super League as well in Paige Travis. That makes 4 from England. Then you're looking at players from rugby sevens.
Yeah.
You're looking at players from netball, basketball. You're looking at all different types of sports where women are very athletic and they want to have a crack at rugby league, or they played rugby league when they were little and then they had to stop.
Yes.
And now they go through. And then you are tempering that with the young talent that is now starting to push its way into the NRLW that haven't had to put a football down.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of the women, well, when I played, you had to stop at 11 and 12 because you could only play mixed then and there were no girls-only competitions. So you had no rugby league after that. Now, these young players that were coming through have had a genuine pathway from juniors all the way through. So they haven't had to stop playing because there's no competition. So to me, it makes sense to add these teams on, and it has been done in a very measured way.
Yeah.
And I believe it won't dilute the talent. You know, it will actually force clubs to be better and to find new avenues for players and to continue to grow their junior pathways. And the other thing that does too is that then you get higher and higher quality coaches and staff applying for these roles because – and then what that then does, it's a trickle-on effect to the players underneath them because then they're getting better coaching from a younger age. Say, for example, the Roosters have some of their NRLW girls, Jamie Frezard, Keely Davis, coaching their juniors. The Sharks had Andrew Fafita involved in their juniors. And, you know, at the Bulldogs, they had Vanessa Foliaki coaching their juniors. So you get, and that's not, they're not just, you know, in a vacuum. It's happening at every single club. They're just a few that I'm mentioning off the top of my head. So it then makes the juniors better because they get better quality coaching. So I think it's really important, that we need to grow, because if we don't push ahead and add new teams, you then start losing that talent to other sports. So we need to, I think they've really found that balance between making sure that the product is still good, but also creating more and more opportunity so that more people want to get involved in the sport.
It's about innovation, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair for fans to kind of ask that question because I think often I don't like comparing female codes because I think that there's enough room for there to be lots of opportunities for our female athletes. But people obviously look at AFLW as a bit of a cautionary tale in terms of the quality of the product, and they did
the
jump.
Speed at how they expanded.
They expanded super quickly, but I was the same as you. I was highly critical of the 14, kind of staying at the 14 competition for such a long time, but it's really worked out well for us because there are sort of those questions of the quality of the game don't really happen anymore. Like, because it's like, wow, look at how good it is. So it's nice that we're at a point where at under 19's Origin the other week, there's all these girls who've never stopped playing, and they're just incredible talent, and they don't know what it. And amazingly, and I'm so glad they don't know what it's like to be told you can't play anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's the exciting part. So I know that everyone sort of, there is always, as well, going off on a bit of a tangent, there's always an argument saying, why are we putting so much money into the top grade when like money needs to go into participation? And similar to the argument that you had with other codes, we can hold space for both of them at the same time, because I can tell you now, if you just focus solely on participation and you have nothing at the top for them to aspire to, you will lose those players. They will go to other sports because there's no career progression. However, if you just pump all of your money into the top grade and do nothing at the bottom, it'll fall over because it's like a reverse pyramid. It's just teetering on this really tiny little point. So, and I think we're really good at, we've put funding into both of those, and we're really cognizant that participation is the lifeblood and it holds up our sport, but also we need to make sure that we're giving them something to aspire to. Yeah,
that's a really good way of putting it. Another question, this one's from Izzy. With the change to finals format, so there will be a top 6 and the finals will go over 3 weeks. How does this impact the race for those top 6 positions, and does it add more excitement or fatigue?
Oh, Izzy, good question.
These are great questions.
Good question. For me, I don't think that it creates a fatigue. I think it creates way more excitement. And then what it also does is it then takes longer throughout the season to see what your top 6 look like. Whereas if you've only got a top 4, you know by the halfway mark who's going to be there and who isn't. And we want the interest and the excitement to be longer. So I think having that 3-week finals and having top 6, to me, I think that's a really good thing for the game. It makes it more exciting. I don't think the fatigue factor comes into it because it's more interest in actually how your team goes throughout the week or every week, I should say, and how each opposition club is going. And I think it generates a lot more interest and a lot more excitement. And from a playing perspective, obviously because I'm an ex-player, you want to go deep into the season and you want to go to finals. I keep saying wanna, sorry. You want to go deep and my mother would kill me if she's listening to this.
We're talking about rugby, Ru. You can say wanna.
Wanna, gonna. But you want to go deep
Yeah.
into the season and you want to play finals football. So when you say top 6, yes, I think that is a really great opportunity to keep your season alive and have something to fight for at the end of the year.
Well, remember even last year and the year before in the final round of the regular season, we didn't know who that 4th team was going to be. And the excitement and the way that fans showed up to kind of get their team across the line in that last weekend. I mean, we're going to have that, times, however many, I don't know a number. I don't know why I said times then, but like way more than what we did last year, which is
Let's just
super
go times
exciting.
100.
Yeah, times 100.
Times 100. Yeah, and as a professional fan, you know what that's like. It builds the excitement. Yeah, so great question, Izzy.
Yes.
I think it's going to build more and more excitement. And
Beautiful.
I can't wait. Top 6 is going to be epic.
I'm so glad I only have to have one more sleep before NRLW is right in front of my face. You're going to hate this because now I'm going to make you tell me your 2025 NRLW predictions. You were pretty good with your crystal ball last year, and I think that you're probably I think it's going to be harder this time.
It is harder.
Yeah.
It actually is harder. Premiers, it's hard to overlook the Roosters. And let's go for a smoky.
Yep.
I'm going to go a smoky in the Warriors.
Ooh, I like that.
Smoky.
Up the wall.
Up the walls. Dally M. I think if the Roosters are killing it, I think it's hard to go past Olivia Koenig for 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Just because they've got her playing lock and she dominated in lock at Origin.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine what's going to happen at NRLW level. So it's going to be hard. She could be getting a double.
Wow, that'd be sick.
With the Dally M's. That's if she stays injury free and the Roosters are killing it.
Yeah.
That's who I would probably be leaning towards.
Okay.
Rookie of the year. There's so many good young players.
I know.
There's
Isn't that so exciting?
There's so many.
Or is there a young gun that you're aware of that you're like, oh, I'm excited. Well, keep an eye on them.
Yeah, there's a couple of young guns. If they get their debut, they could very well get it. I think one for me, it could be Tess McWilliams.
Yeah.
For the Eels.
Yeah.
I really, really like her. So she could be one. But then, a smoky for Rookie of the Year could also be Marta Matayele.
Okay.
She's come over from Rugby.
Yeah.
She's playing on the wing for the Eels.
There you go.
So she could very well, I was watched their trial game on the weekend and she's quite powerful. So she could very well be your Inessa Biddle style player.
You get to watch her tomorrow night, first game of the NRLW at Shark Park.
So that could very much, that could be the go.
Okay.
And then another one maybe to keep an eye on is Georgia Thomas.
Okay.
She's come over from Oztag, I think, and she's playing in the halves.
Wow.
Yeah, she's playing in the halves of the Raiders.
There you go.
So she could be one to keep an eye on.
Okay, love that. Captain of the year?
Captain of the year? A lot of them have selected 2 captains.
Yeah.
Which I find it hard to split if you're
Okay.
going for Captain of the Year. But if we go with, if the Wars are the Smoky,
Then it's Arpy.
Then it's Arpy.
Yeah. Okay.
However, I love Yazzie Clydesdale.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
As a shout.
Yeah.
So, if we're going the Smoky, if the Smoky wins,
Yeah.
I reckon Arpy. But very, very right up there will be Yasmin Clydesdale.
Amazing. Well, look, I'm not going to give full predictions, but I'm just going to say this. Ru, you know this. The first year we were doing this podcast, I jumped on the Titans. Hard. Last year, jumped on the Sharks.
Yep.
Hard. This year, I'm revealing it pretty early because it's not going to surprise anyone. I'm on the Dogs.
Yeah.
Big time.
They're looking good, aren't
Big
they?
time, just because I'm excited about the club. And, I'll just be, if they're there in terms of close to the top 6 in that final weekend, I might have to be head to toe blue and white.
Yeah, nice.
Are
you going to jump?
up.
Are you going to jump clubs the way you jumped states?
Yep.
I had to throw it in there.
If anyone missed it.
Cue footage.
Throughout the Origin series, I was very easily manipulated by the NRLW players.
Location to the team.
In
proximity to the side.
to the Maroons and the Blues. And you know what? As a professional fan, that's my right. I'm allowed to do that.
That is your prerogative.
I'm just a fan of the girls, okay?
I just love the football.
I just love the football, okay?
Go the ball.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, I just
No, that's fair enough. And I deserve that. And I copped it. And I will wear that. I was later told by Jamie Chapman that the girls in the Blues camp were genuinely like, don't talk to Marlee. Don't talk to Marlee. And I was like, come on, man. It's for the content.
It's for the gram.
And the people loved it.
Is that what it's called? The talk or the tick?
Sure. I don't know. I'll go with the gram.
I don't do the tick or the talk.
Yeah.
So.
I'm doing it. I'm trying to stay up with the kids. I'm trying to, cause some controversy. Ooh, I'm a turncoat.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Watch me turn.
Hey, let's get into these round one tips before we get out of here and go and embarrass myself on the internet in some other way. First game, Sharks v Eels. Who you got? I think I know.
I'm going with the Sharks at home. Yeah. I think they'll be a bit too strong. And obviously no Kennedy Charrington for the Eels is a really big loss. I think that means that they're probably not going to move the ball around as much as they would like to. However, the weather is a great leveller. Yeah. So I'm going the Sharks in a tight one at Shark Park.
Okay. Friday night, first game for the Bulldogs in the NRLW. They are hosting the Knights.
This is a tough one to call. This is a really, really tough one to call. I've gone the Knights just because they've been together for a little bit longer. However, I'm really excited to see how the Bulldogs play in their first NRLW game. Obviously, a trial game is very different. So just watching a trial, you sort of see more individual players as opposed to real team specific stuff.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So I sort of watch more individuals there. However, round one is when it'll be really interesting to see how they turn out. But if the Doggies are to get the job done, it'll be their forward pack that wins it for them. And then it'll be the kicking game of Taylor Preston.
Okay, that'll be so exciting.
Yeah.
Come Saturday, the Broncos will host the Tigers.
This is going to be a really big test for the Tigers. They've had a lot of movement in the off-season. However, a lot of key re-signings. Kezi Apps signed long-term, Salatonga Tuki as well. But to me, I think that spine, if we got Upton, Broughton, Brigginshaw, and Jada Ferguson. That's a really tough spine. The middle third for the Tigers are going to have to be really staunch and watertight. If they want to go with the Broncos. But I think the Broncos will be too good. But don't write the Tigers off. Because they've got some good quality there, and they love to get into the fight. But I think the Broncos will get it done.
Okay. Then in the afternoon, I'll be down in Canberra. It'll be nice and fresh. The Raiders will host the Dragons.
Again, another couple of sides that have had a fair amount of changes.
Dragons' new coach.
Which means a new system.
Yeah.
It'll just be how they turn out. To me, they have this more spark in their halves.
Okay.
Casey Ray and Racine McGregor. That is very, very good halves pairing. Someone, Ray McGregor, who's done everything in the game, won the Golden Boot.
Yep.
I think she has.
Yeah, she has, yep.
And then Casey Ray, who's the next big thing coming up, and she's an incredible, I had the opportunity to work with her in Origin, even though she was injured. She was still there learning, constantly asking questions. Very impressive. Very impressive young player. So I think she's got a huge future. I think they've got a bit more strike in the halves there. It'll just be whether they can go with the rumble that the Raiders get. Obviously Samai Matalfa leads that constantly. So they're going to have to really go with them in the middle there if they want to get the job done. But I think, I believe the Raiders will be too good at home.
Okay. Okay. Just on the Dragons quickly, I was really impressed to see Zali Hopkins as the co-captain.
Yep.
She's so young, and for her to get that step up alongside Racine will be really really cool
and
for
to
her.
be the starting 9 as well. I think that'll give them a lot more stability. I mean, it's a really good spine for the Dragons. Like Zali's really bright out of number 9. Casey's an excellent half. Ray's an excellent half. And then Flash, Tegan Berry.
Yeah.
So I just think that their spine has got a lot of strike in them.
Yeah.
But their forwards are really going to have to get the job done against the Raiders to enable their spine to click into action.
Alrighty. The next one, Cowboys and Titans. They played each other in the trial match.
Yep.
Like you said, that's more about an individual thing than team thing. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, this will be, I think, quite evenly matched.
It is. It is, for me, evenly matched. I think, to me, though, the Titans edge them out, edge out the Cowboys. Jamie Chapman at fullback.
Yeah.
Really good to see how she attacks that position.
Yeah.
She's probably more known as a runner. Mm-hmm. So whereas Vani Politi was more, she can ball play as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether they've worked on that, adding in some ball playing for Chapo.
Yeah.
Or whether they just get her into the action and she just runs the length of the field like she always does. She gets half a sniff, she's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Chapo at the back there, it'll be interesting to see how she goes. But also Georgia Hale does a lot of work.
She does,
for the Titans through the middle, and she acts as a ball player too. So they can attack edges pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And she can act as that really good link. And whereas I think the edges are probably where the Cowboys will find it hard. I think that's where, if I'm the Titans, I'm looking at that going, I think that we can attack the edges and find some joy there.
Yeah.
So, so I'm saying the Titans.
And the final one, Roosters and the Wars first game back in the NRLW at Allianz on Sunday.
Yeah. Look, I'm tipping the Roosters just because of the cattle that they've got there, and they played a lot of football together, and it is the first game back for the Wars.
Yeah.
However, I'm really excited to see those players that we spoke about. Excited to see RP out the back. Excited to see Michaela Brake playing as well. And it's going to be really important for, I think, Leishon Albert-Jones as well in at lock, because she does have that ball playing ability too. However, she's coming up against Olivia Koenig.
Yeah.
So their middle is going to have to be really on song. Their marker D is going to have to be on song to push the Roosters, because Koenig is so good in the middle. You don't know whether she's going to run or pass.
Yeah.
She's got a really good subtlety in her attack. So you have to be really on. You've got to force her to play footy early. So they've got to make sure that their marker D is on song.
Yeah, it's a tough first opponent for them.
Yeah, it is. But it's also, I think it's good to see where you're at.
Yeah, 100%.
So, they're the premiers, and they're the premiers for a reason. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm glad to be having that game first up and just go, right, let's just go.
Because no one has
straight
expectation of you. No one knows like what's going to happen. So you could go out there and really ruffle some feathers and, give them a nice challenge as a good way to set the bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yay.
Me too.
It's finally here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the NRLW Weekly Podcast. Make sure you're hitting subscribe anywhere that you're listening right now. Share this pod with someone who you think, is a budding NRLW fan, wants to know more. Send us your questions. We had great questions this week, and we love hearing from you guys, because again, think of me as you, right? Like I'm you. You send in a question because we're the fans and we want to know. So I get to ask Ru, we'll share that information, and next week we'll certainly be diving into whatever happens in this first round. But Ru, thank you so much.
Yeah, so exciting. And also going forward, we're going to have a little school session as well as the year goes on. So if you are a budding player, hopefully we're going to be able to look at breaking down some plays and breaking down some players on what makes them so good. And hopefully you might be able to learn something.
Oh, there you go. Ms. Sims. She'll be, strict in class, and she'll be telling you what to do.
On the whiteboard, on the chalkboard. That's more my ilk, the chalkboard.
All righty. Thank you so much for listening to the NRLW Weekly Podcast. Thanks to Harvey Norman.